Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Handiest Sportscast, the only sportscast that can be considered the handiest because it comes from the mouth of a resident handyman. I'd like to first welcome back William Cook to the show. Say hello, William.
Hey, how's everyone doing today?
Yes, we're back again to discuss more NBA, but this time we're going to preview free agency. We previewed the last time we talked. We previewed the NBA draft. So now what we're just going to do is we're just going to focus mostly on free agency, regardless of how the draft goes. So this really has no impact upon the draft. Let's go ahead and get started, and let's start off about the biggest name on the list right now, and that's at least two, I guess, should be the biggest names on this list. It's both Leborn James and Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if you've seen the reports yet, but I saw this report on Saturday and according to BleacherReport.com, it seems that the Houston Rockets are going to go for broke this offseason, and they want to add either LeBron or Melo to their lineup. This is a team that already has James Harden, who has already flourished just nicely in Houston and has turned into a bona fide star, and as well as Dwight Howard, who they added last season. William, I know you have a list, and we'll get there here in a second. But what do you think about this move? Is this a good move, bad move, crazy, not going to happen? So what do you think of the chances? What do you think of the chances are that this actually will happen?
You know, I think it's a really good move, and it speaks volumes that Houston is once again really trying to make a huge splash in free agency and make Houston that desirable location that it was again back in the 90s when Hakeem Olajuwon was there. I think it's a great move. I think the fact that they're saying, hey, we want LeBron James to come here and play with our two huge stars, or that we want to bring Carmelo Anthony in, we want to save his career. The fact that they're willing to take that risk, I really like. They did it before trying to get Dwight Howard, before he signed with them, when he was actually got traded to the Lakers. They tried to get him then. It didn't work out then, but it did later on. And I think we're going to see the same kind of thing here. I don't think it's actually going to happen. I know 100% LeBron James is not going to be playing in Houston next season. It's not going to happen. Let's stop kidding ourselves. Carmelo Anthony, that one actually could happen. I personally don't think it will end up happening, but the fact that they're willing to try this offseason to get them is going to bring a star to them probably within the next 12 months.
You know, there is still a part of me that very much does agree with that. And according to league sources, it says that the Houston Rockets are ready and prepared to put out a, quote, Texas-sized offer to either LeBron or Carmelo Anthony when free agency opens up on July 1st. Apparently, also, Chris Bosh is also on the radar, but I have a feeling that will depend upon what James does. If James stays in Miami, which is what the presumed expectation is, then Bosh will stick around. However, I found this kind of interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this. According to Bleacher Report, James will start to weigh his options this weekend, or he already has, I guess, so this is from this past weekend, I apologize. And accordingly to one rival executive, he believes there is a 40% chance that LeBron James will leave Miami this offseason. William, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, first off, I think that executive is full of it, and he's trying to convince himself that LeBron James might be coming to his team. He's not. He's staying in Miami. Although last night we did have that little explosion on Twitter when LeBron's wife posted that image of Akron, Ohio, and all the Cleveland fans started swooning saying that he was coming back. It's not going to happen. He's staying in Miami. The 40% chance, it's 40% chance that he might even consider leaving, but he's not going to leave. He's going to be in Miami, and he's going to be a Heat one more season. I don't think he opts out. I don't think Bosh or Wade opt out either. I think they just stay there for 1 year. Get that third championship, and then next offseason, start to think, okay, is this where we want to stay or not?
So then at what percentage then would you put LeBron James leaving Miami to specifically go to the Houston Rockets?
Less than 1%.
Wow, that's actually a lot lower than I thought you were going to say. But, however, I have to feel that the Rockets have two things that could really stop them from getting James to sign. And I guess this probably is going to be no surprise to a lot of people. One is cap space. And the second thing is they do have quite a few draft picks. And with a very much of a heavy and deep draft coming up, it's almost kind of like, at the same time, like you could trade away those picks. But again, I almost feel that with this deep draft, you'd almost be kind of crazy not to take someone. But again, the name LeBron James is there. If the opportunity presents itself, you have to take that. As as was stated in BleacherReport.com piece, the Rockets would have to free almost about $19 million, which means they would have to dump players like Omar Askisk and Jeremy Lin, which are currently taking up roughly about $17 million in their cap space. And then comes their draft picks. As we both mentioned in our last podcast, this is a deep draft, and I do feel that the Rockets would be foolish, as I just said, in passing this up. Here's my thought, and then we'll eventually move on. I still believe that LeBron James is going to stay in Miami. I can't envision him opting out in this. It would take a blockbuster number for the Houston Rockets to get LeBron James. But if Houston does do this, and I think, William, you would agree with me, the Rockets would become the favorite to win the championship in 2015. I mean, you would have to. You would immediately have to put the Houston Rockets, and their big three, Dwight Howard, James Harden, and LeBron James, you would have to put the Houston Rockets at number one, which would be a huge jump for them. Okay, Will. Now we can move on and we can talk more generally about this upcoming free agency. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. I know that you have a list that you have been working on, so to speak. I've watched you put this list together the other day in class.
Changed since then.
It probably has. So I do want to hear your thoughts, or at least the predictions that you have of the NBA free agency coming up.
First off, the thing that I think has to happen, I think that the Timberwolves would be kind of idiotic to do it at this point in the offseason, is Kevin Love is going to get traded. We've heard a lot of rumors within the past couple of weeks about him going to Golden State, a potential trade being put in there with Klay Thompson going to Los Angeles Lakers, and a whole bunch of different stuff there. A couple hours ago, those talks were off. They're no longer being discussed, and I really didn't think he was going to go there. I think that there are two destinations that Kevin Love could really end up in, and that's Phoenix and Boston. I think he's a better fit in Phoenix, but because of the rapport that Minnesota and Boston have together and the fact that Boston has 2 first-round picks this year, I think that Kevin Love is going to be playing in the Celtics jersey next year. I don't think it's going to work out. He's not Kevin Garnett. It's not going to work out as well, but I think Kevin Love, first off, will get traded to Boston. Another big thing I think seeing happen is another sign and trade. I'll do the two trades that I have going on right now, and then I'll get to some more free agent stuff. So I've got Greg Monroe doing a sign and trade. The Detroit Pistons doing a sign and trade with the Dallas Mavericks to bring Greg Monroe to Dallas. Dallas has got cap space this year, and they need to start looking at what they're going to do after Dirk Nowitzki leaves. So I think it would be a good idea to bring in someone like Greg Monroe this year. Going price for him right now is going to be about 4 years, $58 million. That's going to be about what the sign and trade is. Nowitzki is probably going to sign for about $11 million a year, so they're going to be taking up a lot of cap space with Monroe coming back. But the thing is, they're going to be able to retain Vince Carter, they're going to be able to retain Devin Harris, and they're going to be able to retain Sean Marion. And that's a nice core right there. I'm not saying the Mavericks are going to go out and be rock solid next year. 6-7 seed at best, just because the West is so strong. And they'll really be able to make a splash with Greg Monroe. Going on to another signing that I see happening, the Los Angeles Clippers are going to bring someone in this offseason. They're going to bring someone in. And I mean, there's been a little bit of talk about LeBron James going there. I don't see Carmelo Anthony ending up in a Clippers jersey. It's just, there's one name that just points out to me as like, you know what, it's a fit. And that's Paul Pierce. He has a great rapport with Doc Rivers. He didn't really like Brooklyn, I feel, as much as he is making it look like. Kevin Garnett might retire. He's not attached to Kevin Garnett or Brooklyn right now. And I feel that he could leave. He could easily leave, not re-sign with Brooklyn. A lot of people say he might go back to Boston. I think he goes across the country. He makes a jump to the Western Conference and rejoins Doc Rivers, a person who has really helped him become a superstar in this league. Adding a player onto that Clippers team that they really need, because they've got Chris Paul and they've got Blake Griffin. But that the guy on the wing that they really need, that would be Paul Pierce. I think it would be a great fit for them. Just to go on with the other stuff, the Miami Heat, I think they're going to retain LBJ, the King. They're going to retain Dwayne Wade. They're going to retain Chris Bosh. They're not going anywhere. But they're going to keep adding players. Ray Allen, he's not going to retire. They're going to keep Rashard Lewis because his contract's expiring too. But I think that they add 2 huge veterans for really low costs. Elton Brand, coming out of Atlanta, he wants a ring before he retires. And I think that the Chicago Bulls are going to amnesty Carlos Boozer. I really feel like it's going to happen. And I just get the gut feeling that he's willing to sign a minimum contract to get a ring that he doesn't have yet. And I think that we could easily see Boozer playing in Miami next year, too. I think the Utah Jazz are going to get Danny Granger. I don't know if that's really important to anybody. That's just one that I was really interested in. Toronto Raptors are going to get Chris Kaman. I feel like they need to add another big man in there, and he's a good fit for there. The New York Knicks are going to keep Amari Stoudemire, Andrea Bargnani, and Metta World Peace, but they're going to lose Carmelo Anthony. And here's the big part of free agency that's going to be the shock. The Lakers were bad last year. They were really bad last year. But the thing is, the Lakers never stay bad for long. Everyone's saying, oh, they're going to have a rough few years. No, they're not. I'm a Trailblazers fan. I love seeing the Lakers wallow in self-pity and distress and Kobe on the bench. But the thing is, they've got the same allure that Miami does right now. They've got a star, and people are going to come in for lower contracts. And I've got the Lakers being the huge splash in free agency this next year. They cut ties with Chris Kaman. He goes to Toronto. That frees up a lot of cap space. I don't think most people realize how much cap space Chris Kaman actually took up on that roster. And they can get rid of a lot of the other players in there, too, that are taking up cap space. But I feel like they're going to bring in an array of players this year. First off, they're going to bring in Melo. Carmelo Anthony will be playing side by side with Kobe Bryant next offseason. They're going to bring in Luol Deng. And I think Luol Deng is a great fit for that team because that would allow Carmelo Anthony to play the 4, or Luol Deng can even come in with the second shift and play off the bench. Be a great depth player for the Lakers. He's probably going to cost him about $11 million a year. Luol Deng, that's his going price. Although I think to play with Carmelo Anthony and Kobe Bryant, he'd take a discount. I think they're going to re-sign Pau Gasol. He's probably going to be about $8 million a year, but I feel like he might also take a hometown discount just to get them winning again. He wants another ring. He's got 2, if I'm not mistaken, and I know he wants more. And then last, I think that they pull Kyle Lowry out of Toronto to be their point guard. Steve Nash, if he's coming back, he's not a starter. He's not a starter, and they need a starting point guard. But I think the Lakers can get Carmelo Anthony, Luol Deng, Pau Gasol, Kyle Lowry, and next year they can go out on the court and have a starting 5 of Kyle Lowry, Kobe Bryant, Luol Deng, Carmelo Anthony, and Pau Gasol. Turn them around in one offseason.
So, real quickly, my question to you is simply this with Kobe Bryant. There's no denying this, that Kobe Bryant can still hit clutch shots. But we know this guy's still coming off of an injury, and he hasn't exactly been the most healthiest player in the past couple seasons, which is, it's kind of sad whether you love the Lakers or you hate the Lakers. That really is irrelevant. But Kobe Bryant is still one of the best shooters in the NBA currently. So I want to get your thoughts. What type of player do you think Kobe Bryant will be next year? Is he going to be healthy for the Lakers?
I would probably, if I could have any player in the league to take a clutch shot with 2 seconds left in a game, I think it would be Kobe Bryant. I don't think it would be Kevin Durant. I don't think it would be LeBron James. I would still give the ball to Kobe because he's got that it factor of when he needs to take a shot. However, he's got injury problems. And like I said, the Lakers pulled around in one offseason. I don't necessarily mean that they go and they win an NBA championship next year. What I mean by that is that they found their core going forward because those were all young players. Kobe Bryant, I think he's going to play less than 30 games next year. I think he's going to get injured again, and I think next year will be his last year. And it's going to be a sad end to his legacy. I'm not a huge Kobe Bryant fan, but I respect him like crazy because he plays hard every single game. And I really just feel like it's going to be a sad end to his career. He's going to play less than half the season and probably not get much playing time when he is actually healthy and on the court.
I think you and I both are in agreement here that I will agree with you on one thing, from your list at least. I will say this, I do think Boozer is out in Chicago. And as much as it pains me because there's no other player in the NBA that I enjoy more than Carlos Boozer. The man has just been consistent. Everywhere he's gone, he produces. He produces. Even Cleveland. Even in Cleveland. It does not matter. You put Boozer in any of the 30-team rosters today, the guy starts. And more importantly, he's going to give you solid minutes. He's going to be a force on the boards, which is sometimes there are a lot of teams out there that could really use that. I meant to say, if Anthony goes to the Lakers, what do the Bulls do in return? Because if they do release Boozer into trying to get Anthony to come, but Anthony decides instead, no, I want to go to Los Angeles instead of with Chicago, should the Bulls do next?
Really, I think the Bulls' best option at that point, I think that they have to amnesty Boozer. He's just taking up too much money. And as good of a player as he is, he's not going to bring anybody else in. They need to bring somebody big in. I really think what they'd have to do is they'd have to sit on it for a year. They need to sit and make sure that Derrick Rose actually heals. Because Derrick Rose is a superstar when he is at 100%. He led the Bulls to a number 1 seed, and he should have led them to an NBA championship when he was healthy. He didn't, but if he's healthy again, he could do it by himself. He's that good. The thing is, with the Bulls, if they miss on Anthony this year, it's really all they have to look at is one bad season, because we've got a slew of free agents next year. I don't think LeBron, Wade, or Bosh are going to opt out this year. So that means that they will be free agents next year. Kevin Love, if he gets traded wherever he gets traded, he'll be an expiring contract next year. If he goes to Boston, I don't think he re-signs there. So I really think they have to do is sit on it for a year. You maybe have a really bad season. You win 25, 26 games. You don't let Rose play. You just kind of let Joakim Noah be the star of the team. And you take a hit for 1 year. And then after that, you're saying, hey, look, Derrick Rose is back 100%. We've got a high draft pick to bring in a new kid. Hey, LeBron, you want to come play? Or why don't we pick off Wade and Bosh? Prove that you can win a ring without LeBron. Prove that you can win with someone else. Kevin Love, you're tired of losing. Why didn't you come? We're proven winners. We've got a legacy here in Chicago. I think that's really their backup plan if they miss on Carmelo.
A couple other things that I do want to talk about, and do want to talk about it. I know we mentioned this before, but let's just talk about this news over the weekend, about this potential, and it does seem like it's a dead trade. It's not going to happen. But let's just talk about this for a second. Where the Lakers would get Klay Thompson from the Warriors would get Kevin Love and Kevin Martin from the Timberwolves, while the Timberwolves would get the Warriors' first-round pick and all-star forward David Lee. Obviously, as we've said before, the talks have been kind of off and on, and they kind of seem like they're pretty much dead right now. And really what it kind of boils down to is just the simple fact that the Warriors don't want Martin. Martin has already played for them, and the organization just does not feel that Martin would add a whole lot to their team. But there's no denying that they want Kevin Love, but it just seems like Minnesota's like, you want Kevin Love, you have to take this player, and the Warriors are just simply not going to take that deal. But I'm just kind of interested in the whole fact that all of a sudden the Lakers jumped into this equation and went after Klay Thompson, and there kind of seemed like there was a lot of interest from the Warriors in moving Klay Thompson. I kind of just found that a little fascinating as I read the story and as I was kind of reading some of the tweets and things like that over on Bleacher Report. So, Will, what do you think it's going to take for this trade to happen? And do you feel that by the time we have the NBA draft, which again happens this week, kind of crazy to think about, and happens on Thursday. So, do you think by Thursday this trade happens? And what do you think it will take for this trade to happen?
I think the main thing the Warriors are worried about right now is trading Klay Thompson to Los Angeles. They play in the same division as him. That means they'd have to go up to him head to head. Klay Thompson is the kind of player who he's not a superstar, but he can make you lose. And I don't think the Warriors want to put up with that in a division. I feel like if they were trading Klay Thompson to Minnesota, they'd be a lot more open to it. But, I mean, in the past, like we said, today we've heard reports that the deal is done. Talks are over. We've heard that before. Talks go over so they can weigh options, see what the market is for certain players, see if we can get more. Maybe if we make them wait, they'll get desperate, they'll give us more, or they'll ask for less. It's a tactic. Talks aren't done. We're going to be hearing talks about Love going to the Warriors for a couple weeks now, maybe even a month. Thing is, I just don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, I think Kevin Love ends up in Boston. And my gut tells me it'll be this week, probably on draft day, with those 2 first-round Boston picks going to Minnesota. I could be wrong, though. And if Kevin Love doesn't go to Boston this week, I don't think he will. And that opens up a door for the Warriors.
I just can't see Minnesota trading Kevin Love away right now. But at the same time, there's no denying this. Kevin Love, he wants out of Minnesota. He has told that organization time in and time again, get me some help. Let's create a winning team. but Minnesota just can't seem to get over that hump. It just seems like since Kevin Garnett left, Minnesota has just kind of gone downhill. I feel that Kevin Love does stay in Minnesota. If he is not gone, I feel that if he's not gone in the next week, 2, maybe next 3 weeks, he is not leaving. He will stay in Minnesota. At the end of next season, he will become a free agent, and there will be a serious, serious bidding war for Kevin Love to go to another organization. Let's talk about the Heat for a second here, because I know that we talked about them picking up another guard, which is something that I feel that going into this offseason they're going to have to address. Either they address it in the draft on Thursday, which I feel that they will. They have a late pick. A guy that I've been really high on for them has been Napier from UConn. He's going to definitely be there. If the Lakers don't take him, I feel that he ends up in Miami. And I feel that it'd be a great fit because especially we all know Chalmers is done in Miami. The organization really wants nothing more to do with him, which is sad because I actually like the guy. I like the way he plays. I like when he gets on the court, he can make threes from anywhere. I don't know what happened to him in Miami. I do. But there has been several names that has been surfacing right now. And so I just kind of want to get your thoughts on a couple of these names. There's an option for Steve Blake. There's also a guy named Patty Mills from the defending champion San Antonio Spurs. Here's a guy that could all of a sudden do the unexpected and jump ship and go to a team that he just helped beat in the NBA Finals and was kind of one of the main role players in helping the Spurs really dominate the Heat. And what about another little guy named Nate Robinson? Just a little spark plug. And we know, which I think I find this really interesting because I want to get your thoughts on this now. Because we all know that Nate Robinson, when he played for the Bulls, him and Leborn James had that little dust up, a couple of times. And he really is, like, he plays aggressively. And it would almost just seem like a great fit for him in Miami because I feel that Miami, they need that type of a player. More importantly, they really need a player like Mike Miller. When they won their last 2 championships, he was instrumental in winning those championships. Especially, I think, like the first one. His ability to make those threes is what really helped the Miami Heat win those titles. So that is something that the Heat have to try to get back to. So I really feel that this offseason, if they don't sign a guard, it's either because, or at least if they don't address that, that means Dwayne Wade is healthy. And that's something I'm not sure if I'm ready to trust right now. So, Will, these 3 names, which one do you think is the most likely? Which one do you think is the least likely? And who do you think is probably the better fit in Miami?
I'll start off with the least likely. Patty Mills isn't going anywhere. He's happy in San Antonio, and he's going to stay there, and he's going to try to win another championship next year. The other 2 that you mentioned, Nate Robinson and Steve Blake, I could definitely see both of them going there. It pains me to say that Steve Blake could go to Miami because I really like Steve Blake. He played for the Portland Trailblazers years ago, and that's when I fell in love with watching him play. Loved seeing him in Los Angeles. He was a great fit for that team. The Warriors, not so much, but we all knew that was a short stop for him. And just everywhere he's played over the years, it's just he's been a solid contributor, and he would definitely help Miami. But I definitely think Miami needs to add new players. Shane Battier has retired, so that's another player that they're losing right there. He's a lot of defense for them. Not a huge concern, but like you said, point guard is the main thing. Mario Chalmers, whether he stays or not, he's not the starter anymore. He's everyone's scapegoat there, and I don't think he's happy. He needs to go somewhere that he's happy, somewhere that he can prove that he is a good player, and it's not always his fault, like LeBron James is always blaming him. What I really think that Miami has to do, though, give the ball to Norris Cole as a starting point guard. I think Norris Cole is a great player who, given more playing time, could flourish into a very solid starter. Much like Mario Chalmers did, but even better. And that with that first-round pick that they have, that they need to pick a player. I really like Micic out of Serbia, I believe is where he's from. But draft a point guard who has a lot of upside, who can start behind or play behind Norris Cole for a couple of seasons and see, okay, does he eclipse Cole or not? And just kind of let it play out that way.
I agree. And I think there are a lot of possibilities for the Heat. But again, like we said, the Heat have to address the point guard situation. Because if they don't, they're really going to hurt. and they really could have a tough time getting back to the NBA Finals, which is crazy to think about this. The Heat are going to be going for their 5th straight Eastern Conference championship this season. Even though they've gone 2-2 in the NBA Finals, okay, we'll give that to you. But 5 straight, the possibility of 5 straight trips to the NBA Finals, you have to tip your hat to that. You have to tip your hat to that team. So, Will, now that we have kind of broken down most of what we think the free agency is going to look like this season, or at least this off season, what do you think about this off season going forward? Do you think it's just going to be rather quiet? Not a whole lot of movement, or is this going to maybe go down as maybe one of the more underrated free agency?
I really feel that we're going to have 3 or 4 days right after July 1st that are just going to be huge. We're going to be talking about free agency. Oh, this could happen. This could go down. This could happen. This could go down. And by the time Sunday rolls around, July 6th, we're about 6 days into free agency. It's pretty much already going to be decided. Players are going to start re-signing with their teams instead of going elsewhere. And it's really just going to kind of turn into this dull, okay, let's fit in the role players. Let's figure things out. Like I said, I think a couple teams are going to make splashes. The Heat are going to sign a couple of veterans. I think the Lakers are going to make their huge splashes. We're going to see the Bulls and the Rockets really, really disappointed. And then we're just going to see a lot of teams that just kind of sit there and say, okay, go ahead. Spend your money. Be fine. We're good. And after 5 or 6 days in, it's just going to be like, okay, let's start the season.
Well, that is certainly all the time we have today. We thank you for listening. On the website will be the following poll questions that I really would like you to participate in and answer. Where will James end up playing next season? Will he stay in Miami like a lot of us feel that he will? Does he go to Chicago? Does he make a major move and go to Dallas or Houston or the Clippers? Or what about the Cleveland Cavaliers? Another poll question will be about Anthony. Does he stay in New York like Derek Fisher and Phil Jackson want him to? Or does he go to Chicago or Houston? Or as my good friend here believes that he'll end up going to the Lakers. Let me know what you think. Well, again, I thank you again for listening. As we always like to end here on the Handyman Sportscast, I'm Craig Handy.
And this is William Cook.
Reporting from Rexburg, Idaho, saying good night, and hey, go watch a ball game.